Once upon a time in the middle of winter, when the flakes of snow were falling like feathers from the sky, a queen sat at the window sewing. And while she was sewing and looking out at the snow, she pricked her finger with the needle, and 3 drops of blood fell upon the snow. And the red drops looked so pretty on the white snow, and she thought to herself,
I wish I had a child with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as the wood of the window frame.
Soon after this, the queen's wish was granted. She had a little daughter who was as white as snow and as red as blood, and her hair was as black as the wood of the window frame, and she was called Little Snow White.
But there was a price. When the child was born, the good queen died. A year passed and the king married again. His wife was beautiful but proud and haughty, and she could not bear that anyone should surpass her in beauty. She had a wonderful looking glass, and when she stood in front of it, she looked at herself and said,
looking glass on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?
And a figure would appear behind her in the mirror and answer,
O Queen, I always speak true. The most fair in all the land is none other than you.
Then she was satisfied.
But Snow White was growing up and grew more and more beautiful, and when she was 7 years old, she was as beautiful as the day, and more beautiful than the queen herself. And one day something strange happened when the queen asked her looking glass,
looking glass on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?
It answered,
You are fairer than all who are here, Lady Queen, but more beautiful still is Snow White, as I ween.
Then the queen was shocked and turned yellow and green with envy. From that hour, whenever she looked at Snow White, her heart heaved in her chest. She hated the girl so much, and envy and pride grew higher and higher in her heart like a weed, so that she had no peace day or night. So she called the huntsman and said,
Take the child away into the forest. I will no longer have her in my sight. Kill her and bring me back her lung and liver as a token.
The huntsman obeyed and took her away, but when he had drawn his knife and was about to pierce Snow White's innocent heart, she began to weep and plead for her life.
Dear huntsman, please don't kill me. If you let me live, I will run away into the forest and never return.
And the huntsman was so enamored with little Snow White that he took pity on her.
Run away then, you poor child.
So she ran away. The huntsman watched her in pity. He said,
She will soon be eaten by wild animals.
Yet a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders, since it was no longer needed for him to kill her. And as a young pig just came running by, he stabbed it and cut out its lung and liver, and took them to the queen as proof that the child was dead. She had the cook boil them in salt, and the wicked queen ate them and thought she had eaten the lung and liver of Snow White.
But now the poor child was all alone in the great forest, and she was so terrified that she looked at all the leaves on the trees and did not know what to do. Then she began to run, and run over sharp stones and through thick thorns, and past wild beasts, but they did her no harm. She ran as long as her feet would go, until it was dark, and she saw a little house, and was so excited at her discovery that she ran in to rest herself. Everything in the cottage was small, but neater and cleaner than can be told. There was a table on which was a white cover, and 7 little plates with silver spoons beside each. There were 7 little knives and forks, and 7 little mugs. Against the wall stood 5 little beds, side by side, and covered with beautiful colored blanket.
Well, that's weird,
She said, but she did not ponder the mystery for long, for she was so hungry and thirsty that she ate some vegetables and bread from each plate, and drank a drop of water out of each mug, for she did not wish to take all of one only. Then, as she was so tired, she laid herself down on one of the little beds, put herself into God's hands, and went to sleep.
When it was quite dark, the owners of the cottage returned. There were 7 dwarves, 5 sisters, and 2 brothers, who dug and delved in the mountains for things people deem precious and special. They lit their 7 candles to light up the house, and with the light they saw someone had been there, for not everything was as they had left it.
Who, has been sitting in my chair?
No one has been in the chair today.
Look, someone has been in my chair. It's cracked.
Someone has eaten off my plate.
All right, who took some of my bread?
It wasn't me this time.
I think she's telling the truth. Look at all the forks. They're bent nearly in half.
Someone has, been in my bed.
Someone is still in my bed.
Everyone ran to the little bed with their candles and let the light fall on Snow White.
Oh my! What a pretty child.
Thank goodness we didn't wake her up.
Let's let her sleep.
Yes, we'll settle this in the morning.
And where shall I sleep?
I guess you just have to share with someone.
And so the 2 girls slept restlessly for half the night and kicked each other for more room on the bed. When it was morning, little Snow White woke up and was frightened when she saw all the 7 siblings around her, but they smiled at her kindly.
What is your name, pretty girl?
My name is Snow White.
She said,
How did you get here?
My stepmother wants me killed, but the huntsman has let me escape with my life, as long as I do not return to the palace. I ran all night and was frightened.
Oh, you
Poor Snow White.
But then I found your home, and I was so relieved that I did not think I was intruding. You are not angry, are you?
Of course not.
I am. I haven't gotten any sleep.
Me either.
Girls, be nice.
Then I am intruding, and I am being very rude.
she said.
Where shall I go if not here?
Actually, it might be nice having someone stay here while we are gone.
You're right. If you could stay here
Take care of the house.
and cook.
And, make the beds.
And keep everything clean and neat.
Then you can stay with us, and you shall want for nothing.
Of course, with all my heart.
And she stayed with them. She kept the house in order for them. In the mornings, they went to the mountains and looked for copper and gold. In the evenings, they came back to a clean house and hot supper on the table.
Now the girl was alone the whole day, so the good dwarf warned her and said,
Beware of your stepmother.
She will soon know that you're here. Be sure to let no one come in.
Now the queen, believing she had eaten Snow White's lung and liver, thought she was the most beautiful again, now that Snow White was gone. With pride, she went to her looking glass and asked,
Looking glass on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?
and the looking glass answered,
O Queen, you are fairest of all I see, but over the hills where the 7 dwarves dwell, Snow White is still alive and well, and none is so fair as she.
The queen was surprised. She knew the looking glass never lied,
The huntsman has betrayed me. Snow White is alive.
and she thought and thought how she might kill her, for envy did not let her rest. When she had at last thought of something to do, she painted her face and dressed herself like an old peddler woman, and no one could have known her. In this disguise, she went over the 7 mountains to see the 7 dwarves, and she knocked at their door.
Pretty things to sell. Very cheap, very cheap.
Little Snow White heard the cry and looked out the window.
Good day, my good woman. What have you to sell?
Good things, pretty things, laces of all colors.
And the queen pulled out one which was woven with bright-colored silk.
I could let the worthy woman in.
Thought Snow White, and she unbolted the door and bought the pretty laces.
Child, what a fright you look. Come, I will lace you properly.
Snow White had no suspicion, but let herself be laced with new laces. But the old woman laced so quickly and laced so tightly that Snow White lost her breath and fell down as if dead.
Now I am the most beautiful,
Said the wicked queen to herself and ran away.
Not too long afterwards, in the evening, the 7 dwarves came home. but how shocked they were when they saw their dear little Snow White laying on the ground.
Oh no! Snow White!
Snow White, wake up!
She's not moving.
She's not breathing.
Have any of you seen these laces before?
Those are tied much too tightly. Cut them quick!
No sooner had they loosened the ribbons than little Snow White began to breathe. When she was able to tell them what happened, the dwarfs looked grave.
The old peddler woman was no one else than the wicked queen.
Take care and let no one come in when we are not with you.
Now we return to the evil queen who laughed as she entered the palace. She went straight to her room and ran to the looking glass.
Looking glass on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?
And the looking glass answered,
O Queen, you are fairest of all I see, but over the hills where the 7 dwarves dwell, Snow White is still alive and well, and none is so fair as she.
When she heard that, all her blood rushed to her heart with fear, for she saw plainly that Snow White was still alive.
But now I will think of something that shall really put an end to you.
And by the help of witchcraft, which the evil queen understood, she made a poisonous comb, and she disguised herself and took the shape of an old peddler woman. So she went over the 7 mountains to see the 7 dwarfs, knocked at their door and cried,
Good things to sell, cheap, very cheap.
Little Snow White looked out and said,
Go away. I cannot let anyone come in.
I suppose you can look.
The old woman pulled out the poisonous comb and held it up.
It's beautiful.
and Snow White opened the door and brought the comb.
Why don't you let me do it up for you properly?
Poor little Snow White had no suspicion, but was excited at the thought of having someone else style her hair for her again, so let the old woman do as she pleased. But hardly had she put the comb in her hair than the poison in it took effect, and the girl fell down senseless.
You paragon of beauty, you are finished now!
And she went away cackling.
But fortunately it was almost evening, and when the 7 dwarfs came home, they saw Snow White laying as if dead upon the ground. They at once suspected the stepmother.
I have the scissors, but there are no laces.
Splash some water in her face. Look for something else.
Like what?
Anything strange.
They looked and found the poison comb. Scarcely had they taken it out when Snow White came upon to herself and told them what happened. And they warned her once more to be on guard and to open the door to no one.
Back in the palace, the queen returned and immediately went to her looking glass.
Looking glass on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?
O Queen, you are the fairest of all I see, but over the hills where the 7 dwarves dwell, Snow White is still alive and well, and none is so fair as she.
She heard the glass speak, and she trembled and shook with rage.
Snow White shall die, even if it costs me my life.
Thereupon, she went into a quite secret, lonely room where no one ever came, and she made a very poisonous apple. Outside, it looked very pretty, white with a red cheek, so that everyone who saw it longed for it, but whoever ate a piece must surely die. When the apple was ready, she painted her face and dressed herself up as a farmer's wife. And she went over the 7 mountains to the 7 dwarfs. The queen knocked, and Snow White looked out.
I cannot let anyone in. The 7 dwarfs have forbidden me.
It is all the same to me. I shall soon get rid of all my apples. There, I will give you one.
No, I do not take anything.
Are you afraid of poison? Look, I will cut the apple in 2 pieces. You eat the red cheek and I will eat the white.
Now the apples were cunningly made, so that the red cheek was poisonous and the white cheek was not. Snow White looked at the fine apple and saw it was very pretty. And when she saw it, the woman ate part of it she could resist no longer, and stretched out her hand and took the poisonous half. But hardly had she a bit in her mouth than she fell down dead. Then the queen looked at her with a dreadful look and laughed aloud.
White as snow, red as blood, black as ebony. This time the dwarves cannot wake you up again.
The queen rushed to the palace and then to her mirror.
Looking glass on the wall. Who in this land is fairest of all?
And it answered at last.
O Queen, in this land you are fairest of all.
Then her envious heart had rest, so far as an envious heart can ever have rest.
The dwarves, when they came home in the evening, found Snow White laying upon the ground.
Snow White! Oh no, not again!
Poor Snow White.
Snow White, wake up.
Come on, we have faced this before. Find what the evil queen has given to her, and she will live.
But search as they might, they did not find anything strange.
She's really dead.
It can't be.
Poor Snow White!
The dwarves laid her on a briar and sat around her and wept for 3 days. When they were going to bury her, she still looked as if she were alive, and still had her pretty red cheeks, so they could not do it. So they had a transparent coffin made of glass, so that she could be seen from all sides. They laid her in it, and wrote her name upon it in golden letters, and that she was the king's daughter. Then they put the coffin upon the mountain, and one of them always stayed and watched it. And now Snow White lay long